Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Well, I'm getting there. I woke up with a pretty bad headache, but it's starting to go away.
Yeah, I had one of those mornings where you wake up and you only hear the alarm, right? Like normally I hear it when it starts, but not today, no. It's one of those, oh crap, I have to get up mornings.
And I have not looked at some.
Because this is so much easier. Is there a benefit to using the tablets?
Yes, so there are some activities that work better on the tablets. For example, the charades one, because you can't shake the emulator. Although people got around that by creating a little button that said the word shake on it and used that as their event handler. And that works fine. The other thing is that when you get into some of the more complicated, like the stuff we're going to do today involves a database. Wow, that's interesting. So that looks like it's not a problem with your emulator, but it's something with your code. So I'm going to bet something's up in your code, maybe.
Well, it worked on the device when I did it with the I did it with the tablet. It worked.
Okay, then I would go ahead and quit the emulator again, and this time we're going to quit the AI starter as well.
Okay, how do I?
So down at the bottom, you see on your what is that thing called? A dock. Yep. Oh, there it is. That's your terminal window. Click it and then go up to terminal. Okay, so you quit that. Now you have to start it again. So you have to, and because I do it so often, I've actually made it a permanent home on my dock. But yeah, right there. That's how you do it. And well, that was text for it. That's not the AI starter. Yeah, you tried to open up something. So it's at the top now, second one. Okay, hold on, something's not running. Killed emulator, killed AB logout. Okay, so did you quit it again? You did. Okay, I would bring it up and fire it up one more time. Like I said, sometimes you have to do it a few times. That's interesting. Okay, now it says completed. I think it solved its problem. So now I would go and try it again. But it may be that this code doesn't work well on the emulator too. I mean, I've run into that where I can build things and they work great on my tablet, but they don't work well on the emulator. Or the other way around. I've had some that work great on the emulator and not on the tablet. Yeah. Okay, so did it ask you to do an update of some kind and you tried to do an update on the emulator maybe? No?
That's all right. I've been working fine with the things. We're good. It's time for class, so I'm good.
Okay.
I'll just keep using the.
Yeah, at this point, I'm going to say you might have to reinstall your emulator or your AI starter software. It looks like something's corrupted your data.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, everybody's. All right, so give me 1 second here, folks. I will get you the link for today, for today's presentation. There we go. So there's the link for today's presentation. And we're kind of going to start by going over some basic stuff from 2.4. Has anybody got any like major questions? Barb, if you want to go ahead and stop sharing your screen. It should be at the bottom of your Zoom window. And Paul, can you make me co-host?
Yep. On
Cool.
here.
And so we just kind of wanted to double check with everybody and see if anybody has any big picture questions, because this is about the point in the curriculum where people are starting to go, oh, wait, how am I going to get this working? Or how am I going to get that working? Or anything like that that we can kind of cover and review with you guys before we start.
This may be kind of a silly question, but it seems like the MIT App Creator has a lot of stuff in there that we might never really touch or get into. Is there an easy place to go? So if a student has a question about something and I don't know, is there like a page or something that I could reference them to that might answer some of those questions?
There are, so they have some tutorials and they also have some resources that are available, like I was going to say they actually have a book that they produce as a PDF where you can look up some of the more complicated features. I was going to say, where is it? It's under...
Yeah, I was going to look for that too.
It's in here somewhere. I think it's under... There's the tutorials page, which is kind of nice. They can look for stuff. But there's also... I think it's under teaching somewhere, under resources. Assuming I could find it. Oh, educators teach, there it is. So then they have a teachers section that also has like the book, and it's got some really good videos. It's also got some odd little like printouts that you can do with the blocks. I had shared that one earlier this week. It's in there somewhere, but honestly, when I get a kid who wants to do something beyond the curriculum that I don't know how to do, I tell them to look it up on YouTube. Because in my district, kids all have access to YouTube. And I'm like, great, go search for that. And they're like, wait, seriously? Well, how do you think I learned it? I went and searched for it.
One of the things that's not in this curriculum is using the AI or the activity starter for the web page, right? So just connecting to various websites. So lots of things students want to do are going to be connecting to other sites, whether it's like a Google Maps or a YouTube or something like that. So there's maybe we can get you some information on that here the next couple of days. But yeah, YouTube is your friend.
And I know it's not the best answer in the world, but it's kind of because it changes so much. There's not like one definitive everything. This will tell you everything you need to know, because that will happen and you'll find a great site and then it goes out of date because they update the App Inventor, I don't know, the environment for it, or they change a button, or suddenly stuff isn't there anymore. And they don't tend to warn you.
There's did you notice there's in the built-ins Maya, there's now these dictionaries, which I think that just showed up within the last month or so. If you look at in the blocks view, in your built-ins, right under the list, there's something called dictionaries, which did not used to be there.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's completely new. Which is weird. But yeah, I mean, stuff just shows up. And they don't tell you how to fix anything, or why it's there or what it does, you have to go search. So I usually get onto Google and I would search like MIT App Inventor 2, dictionaries, and then somebody out there has some sort of there's people who spend a lot of time on MIT App Inventor, and they'll be able to tell you what a lot of those things do. But yeah, there's a lot of blocks and things that are available that we don't do anything with, like the web viewer. The password text box is similar to a regular text box, but different. There's also all sorts of cool stuff under media, like you can insert videos, sound recordings. You can have the device record sound. There's tons of stuff under maps. You can hook it to social media and do sharing. There's connectivity stuff. That's where you can control Bluetooth stuff with it. That's also where you can, instead of just going out and viewing the web, you can actually go out and post things to a website. Like you could use it to build a blog front end so that when you clicked it, it went and posted on your blog. The activity starter, there's also a whole bunch of stuff for Lego Mindstorms that I have no idea how to use. But there's tons of cool stuff. I would just say it's going to be kind of we do the basic dip the toe in. And while I've played with some of the stuff, there's a lot of it that I've never touched. And I just haven't had a need to. And I will sometimes get kids who want to do that. Like I had a kid last year who really wanted to have it send an email notification every time somebody entered something into their app. And I'm like, okay, great. And so he had to figure it out. And I just basically said, I don't remember how to do that. I'm betting there's a thing. And so I helped him look it up, and then I just left him alone, and he got it working in about 30 minutes. But do I know how to do it? Not necessarily. So are there any other like big picture kinds of questions? I don't know if I even answered Matt's question. It's early here. That's my excuse. So are there any other big kinds of things you guys need to know, or you want to know, how do you do this? How does this look in your classroom kind of questions? Anything like that before we kind of jump into stuff for today?
All right, so I think we've got about everybody here. They actually want us to do, if you remember from last week, we split into two groups and just did a little bit of a debriefing, talked about some questions, and then came back together. I think we're going to do that for about 15 minutes. The questions are in your Block 7 curriculum if you want to take a look at those, but I'll be, Maya and I will be going over those with you. But just real quickly, the questions are going to be, share your highs and lows from the previous day. What roadblocks do you predict students will encounter? How will you get students excited about the activities that we have experienced in the curriculum so far? And how will you encourage students to ask questions when they don't understand or want to know more? So a lot of the same questions we had before. We're going to take about 15 minutes for that. We'll come back, debrief a little bit more on 2.4, answer the questions you had on that, and then we're going to get into the 2.4 extension. So let's plan on, I've got almost 9:10 here Eastern time. So we'll get back together at 9:25 in 15 minutes. That sounds good. So just accept this and we'll see you in the breakout room.
And Deb, I did share it again.
Good morning, guys. How are you guys?
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey,
All right.
just while I was looking, did anyone see a community post for yesterday?
No,
I don't think there is one.
yeah,
Okay.
we put it in the PowerPoint because there's
Oh.
almost always a community post, and then
Yeah.
we looked and we're like, oh, there isn't anything on the PD blue.
Okay.
course.
Just to
Oh
make
my
sure
God.
I didn't miss it or anything.
No, you didn't.
Okay,
You are
wonderful.
entirely correct. So,
Yeah, I left my group at 10 o'clock yesterday to deal with the kids. So Gavin and Matthew were both in my group. I know when I was working on my own, I struggled with that reset button, trying to get that to clear all the data, to come back. That was the one thing that I had to hiccup on when I was working on by myself later. I don't know if anybody else had that issue.
so that would be the clear.
Yeah, to clear all the data out and then have,
Oh yeah.
So the trick with that one, here, let me show you, is this is what, that's what that block would look like. And so, yeah, the trick with the clear button is it's simpler than you think it is.
Right.
Is because when I do this, a lot of times people will say global entry months, they say, okay, great, I have to set those variables back to 0 because they're thinking score and timer. And
Yeah.
it's like, but it freaks out if you try and set a list to a 0. So that tends to throw people. So creating an empty list is not the most obvious thing in the world to do because you're basically writing over the top of the list that you already made. And so that's kind of what you have to picture it as. And then once you picture that, you're like, okay, that makes sense. But they don't give you any guidance. They just say, make it delete everything.
Right. And I think I did that initial thing, right? What like the kids would do. I put everything to 0, went through like the error situation, then figured out it was empty list. And I think there's still a little bit of a gap conceptually with, knowing intuitively what all of these things do.
Yes. I would agree entirely. There's going to be a gap for a while, and it's all down to the only reason I know that in my brain that if I have a list, I have to set it to empty list is because I have a million years of practice. Well, not that long, but still, I've practiced it like and screwed it up like multiple times. Like when I build these apps from scratch, I will still go in and set a list to 0 and not understand what my problem is for about 5 minutes before I'm like, dang it, not again. And take it out and fix it. So, I mean, it does get easier, but I would say, yeah, if you get to this point with your kids, and admittedly, I think maybe once I got to this point with my kids because I had a year-long class once back when it was Intro to Computer Science. But
I was thinking of, tell me if this is
Mhm.
overboard. I was thinking of like creating like a color printout of like example code blocks that do certain things, right? Like this is a quick code for timer, this is a quick code for this, quick code for this, and just have it available so that either for me or the kids, right, like that there's like a go-to reminder. Okay, this is how I did this. This is how I did this.
yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good idea. The other thing you can do is if you're going to go to the point of printing out blocks of code, you could always print them out and then cut them and have the kids do like a puzzle activity where they're putting things in order because the order inside of a block really does matter. And so trying to get them to practice that would probably help you out quite a bit too. Anybody else come across anything that was funky or they're like, yeah, I don't know how excited my kids are going to be to do this?
Maya, what do you think is the biggest difficulty for new teachers teaching this program, app creators, to their students? Just not being familiar with the different types of coding and blocks and stuff like that? Would that be the biggest issue, or just questions the kids would have that we would need to know?
Actually, I would say the biggest thing that most new teachers have never done this before, the biggest problem they have is confidence because they don't have any confidence in their own skills. And they're like, well, I can kind of maybe sort of do it. And then after they do it with kids, they realize that the kids actually appreciate the fact that you're not confident in it. Like they appreciate the fact that you don't know everything and you're not trying to tell them how to do everything. You're just like, hey, we're in this together. We're just going to give it a shot. We're going to see how it goes. And if we can't figure it out as a group, you know, we'll all come together and we'll share our ideas. And if we still can't figure it out, you know what, we'll just move on and it'll be fine. I mean, honestly, when I started doing this, I had zero computer science background at all. None. I was a biology teacher. And that's what I did. I taught math and I taught biology. And I was the only person at our building that they said, well, we're going to send you to a 2-week training and here you go. And I went, what? And I went to the computer science training and I told them, no, I'm not doing this. You can't make me. And Project Lead the Way was like, no, you don't understand. You're one of 3 women who agreed to even come to the training. You have to do it. And I'm like, and I did get better, but it's just a point of, honestly, it's confidence is the only thing I think people just need to realize that you're not going to be confident when you leave. You're not going to feel like an expert, and that's going to be okay. In fact, I think it's probably better that way, because when you don't feel like an expert, you practice things. And when you practice it, you get better. And that means that way, when you see that same error that you made 4 or 5 times and a kid's making it, you can go, ha, I know what that is. And that's kind of what I always end up doing is like, wait, I've done that. And then I can go show the kids, oh yeah, no, this made me cry. I was up till like 2 a.m. doing this the first time. And the kids love those stories about how you struggled. And I think people just have to, new teachers especially, just have to accept that you're not going to be an expert the first time out the gate. And normally people really, after they've done it 2-3 times in a year, like on a cycle, then they're like, okay, now I know some stuff. But it usually takes a couple of times. I'd say that's the only thing that I really see people struggle with a lot is confidence.
Okay.
Maya, can I ask a question? Maybe you'll have some feedback for me. I did an MIT Scratch program with my students last year, and I didn't have the problem with confidence with the kids. I had a problem with some of the kids were so darn quick. I'd have a lesson plan and I'd do it and I'd be like, I'm good. And I've got some extensions, I'm good. And somebody would come in and be like, yeah, I did that already at home. So that's my struggle. Like sometimes the kids are so into it, they just do it and do it and do it. And they come back and they're ahead of me. And then I'm like, well, shoot, I don't, let me figure out, you do want to be confident in front of the kids, but at some point you're kind of like, oh gosh, now you are above me.
Well,
So,
and that happens to me, especially when I first started, because I hadn't done all of the activities multiple times. And so what I did is I came up with extra weird, funky stuff for my kids who are super fast. And I'm like, great, I'm glad you got there. Go do this. Well, I go help the 5 kids over here who basically can turn it on and that's it. And so one of the things I did, let me share this, is, let me see if I can figure out where I put it. I had let's see, I lost it. I had, basically I have all these little weird activities that I've adapted that I went through and messed with, and then I just give them extra stuff to do.
is this what you share with us at the very beginning?
Yes.
Because I did make a copy of that. Yes, I did make a copy of that.
So yeah, like the Sprite Smash, they call it Mole Mash, but I changed it a little bit to make it a little more interesting, a basic countdown timer where I just have them make a countdown timer. Then there's other oddball stuff that I've done. Or I'll go on and have them do one of the tutorials from MIT. Yeah, it's going to happen. There's no 2 ways about it. I would say it's going to happen more in Scratch than it will here, because I think Scratch is a lot easier for kids to figure their way around it. And so they kind of wrap their brains around it a little bit easier. But I was going to say, with MIT App Inventor, I don't usually get kids who finish the whole project at home. What I'll get are kids who, with their partner, finish first. And then they feel like because they're done, they should get to go play games. So I would say now that we've gone through the whole database thing and everybody kind of hopefully feels okay, 2.4 extension is what we're doing for today. And then the other thing we asked you guys to do yesterday was to think about your final app, to just kind of maybe think about some ideas. Just be aware that these do not have to be super complicated ideas. A lot of people will say, oh, well, I kind of liked what we did in this activity, but I want to take it the next step. Or I really like this and I want to do something around that. Or I really want to build a hall pass. Somebody always builds a hall pass that the kids can haul the tablet with them to the bathroom. But it's up to you what you want to do, but we still want you to kind of be thinking about that, because I thought we were going to start it today, but we're not. We're starting it tomorrow.
Yeah, and part of that's my fault. I lied to you when I said we'd be switching up groups again today for your final groups, but I forgot we still had the extension to do, which is what you're going to spend your turn on today. So same groups we've been in for the last time today, and then tomorrow you're going to get new groups where we do 2.5 and also the problem 3.1. I completely forgot to go over the delete challenge with you on 2.4. I don't want to go backwards for now, but maybe tomorrow at the beginning of the day, we'll go back and revisit that, ask questions about the delete challenge, because I forgot that after the housekeeping. So we're going to go ahead and kick you to your breakout rooms. The submission is a little bit different today for block 7. It asks you to comment on, I think you get to choose 2 out of 5 topics to just talk about how you would facilitate those. So that's the submission, as well as sort of the typical reflection. We've been sort of forgetting to remind you about daily feedback. You can find that in the training session or section. Not a big deal, but if you can remember to go in there and give daily feedback, that'll be great. We'll have more extensive feedback will be mailed to you at the end of the course. But if nobody has any other questions, we're going to kick you back to your groups from yesterday, and you're going to work through the 2.4 extension.
And Paul and I will pop in and see if anybody needs help.
Yeah, absolutely.
It always seems much more complicated than it is. Once you get into it, I think you'll realize, oh, it's not so bad, but it does look a little confusing to start with.
Yeah, and it's still in sort of that activity phase, so it for the most part walks you through it. All right, have fun, kids. Yeah, I had the delete challenge all up, and I had my emulator ready to go just to show them how it worked, and then I got through the last housekeeping, and I forgot that I still had the delete challenge.
Yeah, I thought you had purposefully left it out, so I'm like, oh, okay. Paul just made an executive decision. That's totally awesome.
No.
Hey, that wasn't my group.
Uh-oh, Tiffany. Sorry about that. Who are you supposed to be with?
Oh gosh, Deborah.
That's all right. I've got it recorded somewhere. Give me just a
Deborah,
second here.
and it was just 3 of us. What was her name? His glasses.
Let's see. You said Deborah?
I think it was 6.
Deborah, Alejandra, and Michelle. Yeah.
No,
okay,
I was
so
only with 2 other. Okay, yeah, that one girl wasn't there yesterday.
Okay. All right. Let me get you in there. Hang on just a second.
All right, Adam and Matt, what'd we do wrong?
We're in the wrong groups.
We're with different people.
Man, I choked on getting my group set up. Sorry about that, guys.
And I took forever explaining that database, man.
No, I've had it done forever. So, all right. Adam Reynolds, do you know what room you're supposed to be in?
I don't know. I know I'm with Matthew W. and Gavin. I can't remember his last name.
That would be group 7, I think.
Yeah, I was with Alejandra and Deborah.
Tiffany?
No, Deborah.
All right. So I think you're in 6, Matthew. Let me get you.
All right, I'm gonna go join a breakout room. Uh-oh, Tiffany says that's not her
Tiffany's
group
back.
either.
Only one person was in my group.
Wow. I'm gonna close out of the rooms and try again.
Okay.
That's probably best. Poor Paul.
I think we got put in our new group is what happened.
It doesn't matter,
we
but
were group 6, but if, I was just saying, is that what you want us to do or what?
No, he's pulling everybody back. It's not you. Man, that sucks. And so we kept trying to,